an environmental movement without a...
Could you see that and hear it?
Yep, we can see it and hear it.
Perfect. And then do you see my, if I go back and forth between these, do you see like now my presentation there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna present it without, I know it bugs people sometimes, but you know, it's weird if you present in full screen mode, it hijacks all the other stuff. So then you can't see your chat and your, you know, your audience and everything else. So,
right.
So I'm gonna, it's like you have, I present with some, you can see my bar. Oh, I can take that off too. I just figured out recently.
Yeah.
Toolbars. You tell me when we have our peeps there and we're ready to go.
Yep. I'm going to switch over to the other camera.
Okay.
So if you wouldn't mind coming to one of these tables here, that would put you in view. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Only if you want to. You can stay there or you can move to this side. So to have people together would be great. Okay, here's somebody else who wants in. And there's Cookie. So,
hey, Cookie. Welcome.
Okay. All right, so I will go ahead and do your intro and then I'll switch over our camera.
Okay.
We'll do that now here. So here's our Sony camera. Okay, so.
Hi, guys. Hey.
This is Alyssa McConkey, is that correct?
You got it.
Is currently the Partnerships Program Manager at EarthForce, a national nonprofit focused on environmental action at civics. Alyssa has held various roles in the environmental education world as a nonprofit's executive director, a program director, and as an informal educator. She holds a master's degree from Colorado State University in education and is passionate about civic action as a key component of environmental education. And she will be presenting on EarthForce today. So welcome, Alyssa. Thank you for coming to our conference today. And we'll let you take it over.
It was a long flight. It was rough. I'm exhausted, but here I am. No. Hi, I was just saying I've only done one of these hybrid sessions before. So this is kind of wild. I'm engaging with a live audience as a virtual person and then a virtual person with a virtual audience at the same time. So hopefully I have maneuvered all of this. We have an hour together. Hopefully it's engaging. I encourage you to come up and ask questions or raise your hand and ask questions. I'm also going to share a QR code and a bit.ly here in a little bit, and you all can engage via a Padlet with me. So hopefully we have various ways to engage. I think it's hilarious that I am like a giant head in your room right now, and I can like barely see you all, but feel free to engage in whatever way makes sense for you. So thank you. And thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. I am really pleased to be here today. And I guess we should just go ahead and get started. All right. Can everyone, I can't even see thumbs up in the live room, but if you could like do this, if you can see like or wave at me or something, is that okay? Thank you. And those of you in my virtual rooms, hello. Thanks for being here. I'm going to try to keep an eye on chat and such, but feel free to turn off your camera and your whatever and just listen and participate as you would like. So, I lost the camera for the room though.
Did you want to keep that one up?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. Yeah, perfect. Cool. Yeah. Cookie, you're welcome to stay on and you can turn your camera off too, whatever works for you. So So, hey, Alyssa McConkey, as mentioned, I'm a program manager with EarthForce, and I work with partners around the country to do environmental action civics. So what the heck is EarthForce? That's what we're here today to talk about. Out of curiosity, those of you in the in-person room, if you've heard of EarthForce, would you raise your hand before? Okay, so there's one. Okay, cool. And virtual, I lost my chat. It's somewhere around here, but feel free to let me know as well if you know about EarthForce. But hopefully you're here to learn something kind of new and you were like, what is this? Is it like Space Force or what's happening? So we will go over that together. Again, my name is Alyssa and I use she, her pronouns. I usually zoom in from Colorado, Fort Collins, but today I'm zooming in from Long Island, New York, where we're visiting some family. And I just recently learned that Long Island, New York, back in the day had 13 native tribes here. And so I don't know a lot about the history of the land here, but I look forward to learning more. So you are in a session called What the Heck is EarthForce? And the question I asked previously was, is EarthForce a bunch of superheroes or what? So actually, no, in case you were wondering, we are not superheroes, but we do work with a lot of superheroes. And we are just a nonprofit organization that has been around for around 20 years. And we work with young people that do, and educators that do amazing things. And so we like to think of them as our superheroes. I wanted to just give you a quick little video overview that it's our CEO talking about the origins of EarthForce and a little bit more about what we do. And it gives you a good overview, maybe answers a few questions, and we'll get us started. So with that, let's see if everything goes as planned. You should be seeing a video now.
An environmental movement without a youth movement is no movement at all. The reason that is true is that these environmental issues are multi-generational. EarthForce was founded based on some actions of some young people. In about 1988-89, the Pew Charitable Trust was looking around at what young people were doing on environmental issues, and they found a group of young people who were speaking out in their communities and attempting to make change. In particular, they found a young woman named Anna Brown. Anna was working at her community to get polystyrene out of the waste stream. And so she did a cleanup and she took it back to the places it came from, mostly takeout food places, and asked them to stop using polystyrene. They said no, and so she worked with the city council to pass an ordinance that banned polystyrene in takeout food. Young people are starting to understand that they have a voice. And that's a big change, and it's an important change. They're identifying problems locally that either feed into the climate change problem or are a result of climate change, and they're pretty active in trying to solve those. So it's smaller actions that young people are starting to take, in addition to the big actions of the nationwide climate marches and such. Now you see a lot of young people are out there, and it's not just this topic. There were the young people at Parkland who came out and said that the gun violence there was not right and that we should do something about it. And so I think what you're seeing is a moment in time where young people try and make change in their community. Climate change isn't going to be solved by the time you and I are gone, or anyone else that's seeing this tape. Climate change is going to be with us for a long time. And so it's important to build those skills that young people need now to be able to solve the problems now and in the future. The best indicator of whether or not you'll be civically engaged when you're older is if you were civically engaged when you were younger. It's important to build that competency so that young people know how to solve problems and will solve problems.
All right. Oh, geez. Lost my view. So can you see my slideshow again? Yeah. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of an overview and kind of a sneak peek. So superheroes are at the base of, were the impetus for this organization to begin 20 years ago. And specifically, Anna Brown is currently on our board of directors. But I love our origin story, and there are so many other stories in EarthForce about young people who have decided to take civic action around environmental issues in their community to make change. And that's really what we're all about. And so our goal is exactly what I said, for young people to take civic action on environmental issues they care about. And generally that's local issues in their community. And we'll get into that, might be more broad, like a state. Recently we had, it's a kind of a special story, but we had some students in Virginia that had been working with their educator through this process, and recently changed indoor air quality standards in Virginia via a bill through the House and Senate. And so that's really exciting. And those are big stories, but there's lots of little stories as well. So we like to call this environmental action civics. So how do we define civics and civic engagement? I'll just give you a second to read this to yourselves. So we are not talking about, reading about government history. We're really talking about engaging young people in the process of learning about their community and the issues in it and the change-making levers, and especially the decision makers in their community, and then practicing advocating for change, which is just asking those decision makers to make the changes that they want to see in their local community. So why do this in environmental education? What's the importance of this? As Vince said in that video, when young people engage civically as youth, they're more likely to engage civically as adults. So if we tell young people that they, a particular way, like a service or planting a tree or a cleanup or something is the way to involve themselves in environmental issues, that's the lever that they use in the future. And if we engage them in civic experiences and we teach them to solve environmental issues civically as young people, they're more apt to use those skills later in life and to be engaged citizens. We also know it is an incredible time, as all of us are deeply engaged in environmental education in the environment. Just how critical it is that we take collective action right now, and that individual actions are wonderful and we need those too. But we really need to change policies and practices around the environmental issues in our communities. And so that's really what EarthForce is all about, is trying to scaffold the tools and experiences for young people to take that collective action. We also want to improve educator and student experiences and outcomes. And we see time and time again that going through this like environmental action civics process or place-based project-based learning models in education, and using those civic channels really helps young people to develop skills. So just taking a minute to look at some of our research or our evaluation information that we've had. We've been working with Brandeis for more than 10 years, and this is just some of what we found. I really love that 77% of students are more likely to contact a public official or a community leader to advocate for action on an environmental issue in the future. That gives me a lot of hope. You can see there's some other great stats there. And then it also strengthens civic participation. And 90% almost of educators state that EarthForce increased their students' belief that they can make a difference in their community, which I think is really profound. So the key concepts of this work, throughout, we want to work in partnership with young people. So this is all about youth and adult partnerships. Totally get that needs to be scaffolded sometimes and built in, and it can't always, it's not about youth just running wild with it. It's just really working in partnership with young people. Authentic place-based learning and integrating and practicing civic experiences. Some of the key experiences we want young people to have are choosing issues that are important to them and to their lived experience, discussing and debating and democratically deciding in groups, and we'll get into some of that today. And then with an adult partner, support, ask for change, and work with the community and stakeholders to make that change. All right, so before we go any further, I just want to pause. I am going to next talk about our process for change and then dig more deeply into some tools and such. But I want to pause because of this kind of unique environment that we're in and just check and see if anybody has questions either in the in-person audience or in our virtual space. And I'll take a sip.
I can repeat it for you. Do you feel like you get more student engagement because they get to pick their own personal issues and things?
Yes. And that's not always that they get the run of everything. We'll talk about like a challenge. We do a few challenges around the country. And sometimes with educators, well, often with educators, there is for informal educators, a grant focus, or for formal educators, a standard they have to meet. So it doesn't mean that there can't be like a lens, water quality, food systems, whatever that lens is that we're working through this process. But yes, for sure, engaging young people and getting their feedback and having them following the things they're interested in for sure increases engagement, definitely. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it did.
Cool, thanks. I don't see anything in the virtual space, so we'll keep rolling. So how do we do this? At the heart of our work is a 6-step action process that we call our community action and problem solving process, or the Earth Force process. I said in the beginning, this is environmental action civics. We think our process is a really cool way to do it because it's linear and we've got lots of supports, but there are many ways. Some of you might be familiar with MeWE's through NOAA, Meaningful Watershed Education Experiences. There's also a lot of other action projects and such where students are inspired and encouraged to take civic action. So whatever way that is, it's civic action. This is the model that Earth Force uses and something we've used for 20 years and have a lot of folks that love it too. So I thought I would share it with you. So it's a 6-step process. I'm going to give you a brief rundown of each step, but we usually do, if we do like a deep dive into Earth Force, we'll do like a 4-hour session or a couple days. Excuse me. So this is going to be pretty brief and an overview. I want to dive into a few key concepts and tools, but do know that we have lots of other like ongoing support sessions and ways that you can get involved and dive deeper with us or explore online. And I'll share that kind of stuff later too. So this is an overview and we'll just kind of zip through it. If you're a little bit lost or confused, that's okay. But you can see here, it is a 6-step process and I'm just going to walk through each of these steps real quick. So we start initially with a community environmental inventory. And so that is really just collecting information about our community. And this can be done in a number of different ways. And I'm actually going to spend a little bit of time on this one later, so I won't go too much into it. But the idea is that we collect all this information. And we really, from that, we want students to identify the things in their community that they're concerned about, the environmental issues that they're concerned about. And we want to leave step 1 with a list of concerns or issues, as well as some strengths in our community. And so students can move on to step 2 and decide on an issue. So this is unique because oftentimes in project-based learning or a lot of like environmental projects and actions, there is this like idea that we learn about water quality, for example, and then we go plant trees. And you ask students, well, why did you plant those trees? And they're like, I have no freaking idea. I don't know. I just put a seed in the ground. It was cool. I got out of school. It was really fun. I like being outside. It's lovely. I got to be by the water. I saw a bug. It was great. But they don't necessarily connect the issue to the project that they're working on. And so really what we try to emphasize in this process is that we start by exploring our community, we identify issues in the community, and then students work together to democratically decide on one issue. I'm holding up a 1. Oh, there it is. It's like disappears in these background things. It's like a magic hands or something. You can like in and out and disappear. Anyway, so one issue and to move forward with and deeply understand that issue and research it. So step 3 is all about policy and practice research. We want to really dig into understanding this issue in our community. And so we research the policies around it. We talk to stakeholders and the people that are involved, the people who are decision makers, the people who are affected by this, whatever works, however students want to research it. We love to put, you know, some choice in their hands of how and who, again, scaffolding this. But we definitely want to look at people, practices, and policies related to our issue. Again, when we're focusing on policies and practices and we're looking to change those, that is a great way to lead to collective action versus individual action, right? And so, so policy and practice research. Whoa, my camera just did. It was wacky. So it's like flashing back and forth. And so, yeah, so policy, practice, and people research. We're understanding our issue better in the context of our community. Then we move on to step 4 and we decide on our strategy. And so this is often where people start in a project-based learning process, right? We're just going to like start with the project we have in mind. But you can see we've done a few other steps before this. So that's why EarthForce is another, well, one reason why it's really great. So in this step, we're really trying to decide based on all of the research and conversation and such that we have had, we're trying to decide on the strategy that we want to use to address that issue. And so you could say like a solution to the issue. I like strategy because not always are they solutions, but it's a way to address it. But you're trying to find the goal, like the policy or practice that you want to change and the strategy that you're going to do to change that. And we'll get into how we make those decisions here in a little bit. I'll give you an example. But in step 4, we're deciding on our strategy. In step 5, we take action. It's really important in this stage to scaffold in experiences that allow young people to take the lead on project management. And so it's like peer accountability stuff and things that I will mention here a little bit more in depth in a few minutes. But we're taking action, but we want young people to be partners in this with us, right? And finally, we reflect and celebrate, like to share the work, reflect on what's happened, think about what we could do differently, share it with our community, and really celebrate what has happened. So with that, I'll pause. I am going to dig into some key components here in a minute, but if anybody has questions about the 6-step process and such, I'm happy to take those now.
So my name is Joe. My question is, so we're so are you like going to schools and then like doing like little like presenting this as an option to the kids, or the kids coming to you?
I think you're saying, are we going into schools or are kids coming to us? Is that what you're asking?
That is correct.
Okay. So we generally train educators in this process or support educators in this process. My role is supporting informal educators around the country who are interested in integrating this into their programming. We work with like NOAA into their MIWI programming to integrate some of this. This looks so different in every community. Basically, it's like what I love to talk to people about is how does this fit into your current programming? Our goal as an organization is basically to affect the field of environmental education to be strongly civic or have a strong civic arm in the end. So creating like kind of a civic a community of practice. And so it looks very different in a lot of places. We do have direct to educator trainings and workshops. So there's a lot of folks, especially in the Chesapeake Bay region, that are doing this directly with young people in formal education settings, as well as Illinois and Montana and Colorado. So those are places we have challenges. Those are folks working directly in classrooms, educators working with students. The partners I work with around the country sometimes work directly with students. Sometimes they train educators. Sometimes they work in partnership with educators, and they do some of this upfront stuff of understanding the community. And then the partners or the educators come in and they take over with students in the classroom to make some of the decisions and do some research. they come back together maybe for the action. So it looks a lot of different ways. It's really about, I'm kind of like advocating and proselytizing for this like experience for young people in environmental education. So there's no one way. It looks different depending on the programming and the work that people are doing around the country. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks for asking questions. It always makes it cooler. All right. Let me just check the chat here. I think we're good. Okay. All right. So some tools. So it's like tools and concepts here that we're going to dig into. I say dig, but really we're just going to brush over them quickly because I have about a half hour. So I'm just going to blow through this. Know that I will share with you some resources and such, and if you're interested in digging more deeply into this, just reach out to me. But let's go. So again, high level resources. This slide is supposed to be up while I was saying all that other stuff. So community inventories. Oh, that's weird. I've never seen this before. Let's try to reload it. It doesn't like that. I had an image here in the center. You can't see that now, which is unfortunate. Can you see it?
Oh, no, we can't see the image. Sorry.
That's too bad. I'll explain it. So a couple of things that are kind of unique, or that I think are important concepts, important to mention here, are that when we're defining community, we mean like, what is the space within, like, what is the space that you're going to look at? So this image that for some reason decided not to load, it loaded a minute ago, was like watershed, town, school, classroom, something like that, right? So it's like different scales of community. So we encourage folks to define their community because it makes action and research and all of that, like stakeholder engagement, much more manageable. So that is kind of a key initial thing with EarthForce. We also really encourage qualitative and quantitative information gathering. So I work with a lot of folks who do stream testing, because some of our prior work, like 10 years ago, we did a lot of that. So we have some legacy partners that do a lot of stream testing. It's amazing, and we should definitely sample our streams. But in addition to collecting that information, like, wouldn't it be cool if we map our watersheds and how they've moved? And we ask students to talk to their families and their community about what watershed, how they interact with the watershed, or changes they've seen over time, or what things worry them about the watershed. So just having a variety of inquiry into understanding our community and asking students what's interesting to them are kind of two things I wanted to point out with EarthForce. In the end, as mentioned at the end of like step one, we want to have a list of environmental issues. And we want those to be local issues that are meaningful to students. And a lot of times folks will have them like collect it all and then just like share it out. And you just have like a great big board of like all the things that are really interesting to students. And I should have shared one. I just got a really cool one from our friends at Austin Youth River Watch. They just did a really cool inventory with students, and just so interesting to see what they chose and picked out in their community as the environmental things that were concerning to them. All right, so another really cool tool or kind of like concept that we like to think about at EarthForce is the root cause tree. It doesn't have to be the tree exactly. We also talk about like the 5 whys, or just any way that you dig deeper or try to better understand an issue. So here is an example, but I like the tree because it's fun and it's kind of pretty straightforward. So within our community, again, whatever that community is defined, looking at an issue and then looking at causes that you think, sometimes at this point, we don't know all the information. We haven't really dug in that deeply. I like to do a root cause at different points throughout the process, but what is the issue? What are some of the root causes and what are some of the effects? I love this because as we move forward, it helps us to think about if this is a superficial issue or if there's maybe something deeper underneath that. A lot of times what students see, they'll observe some things in their community. And then when we look at them, we can kind of group them, look at those issues in this format or something like this. And you might have like 10 different issues that all have the same root cause. You may not, but it's worth looking into to try to examine and make sure that we're trying the best we can. It's not cut and dry. It's not super easy, but just giving it an effort at saying, what is the issue? And is there something deeper that could be a cause for us to look into? Oh, we're here already. Cool. All right. So as I said, working in a virtual space is interesting. So this is what I've tried to do. I hope you enjoy this, or it works, I guess, is the first thing. So those of you in the virtual space, I'm going to put this in the chat. Those of you in the real world space, you should be able to scan that QR code and come up with a Padlet. And so if you have like a phone and want to participate and stuff, I would love to have your thoughts. You don't have to, but it would be cool. If you are on a computer, I see someone with a computer there. If you want to type it in, I made it into a bit.ly, so hopefully it's a little easier. It's 3CDEKE capital F. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. So come on down to our Padlet here. In this Padlet, you're welcome to say hello first, and then don't worry, please. This is like always the educator that gives a whole packet to students and then is like, just look at page 1 and everybody's looking at everything. Let's just focus on community inventories for right now. So I'm just curious to hear from you all. If you're able to access, was there something, Leslie, is there a question?
Sorry, I was just checking to see if they were able to get it on their phone.
Yeah, thank you. And virtually, can you access that? Maybe you can just let me know in the chat because I can't see the thumbs up and stuff right now. Does it look like folks there are able to access it, Leslie?
I'm sorry?
Does it look like folks are able to access it?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, cool. Great. So feel free to put your thoughts in there. The first question is how do you collect data with youth? In what ways do you work with them to find issues to address? And do you want to share anything? So if you would like to add in there, maybe you have some creative ways with your programming that you explore local issues. Whatever it is, feel free to add. We can kind of keep talking about this stuff. And I'd love to see your comments and such. And if you introduce yourself in the, you can introduce yourself too. And if you haven't used Padlet, you can put comments in, or you can click the little plus under the categories and you can just type something in there. And it should, it's cool. You can put links and pictures and all kinds of stuff in there. But you should see, there you go, a space to collaborate. So this is my trying to engage my live audience and my virtual audience together. So hopefully this works, and I really do hope that you all will participate with me. So anybody need this QR code up still?
Nope, doesn't look like it from here.
Okay. And if you want to share things to live audience, feel free to just mention or let Leslie or me know. I would love to hear. So democratic decision making. This is another one of these like key tools and experiences that we love to see at Earth First. So we do this in steps 2 and 4. We engage student voice and choice really through offering opportunities to practice group decision making. So has anybody seen criteria-based decision making before? I don't see any live hands. Yeah?
Have somebody here shaking their head, yes.
Cool. I love this for deciding, oh geez, what did I do? Oh my gosh, sneak peeks. So I love this for when we're looking at the action that we're going to take with students. But criteria-based decision-making is just cool any way around. It's really fun to use. But as you saw in the process that we use, in step 1, we're deciding on an issue. In step 4, we're deciding on a strategy. I love to use this for deciding strategies because oftentimes we have so many restrictions with whatever action we're going to take. So we have time or resources or I don't know, like you name it, there's a restriction or something, a consideration we have to take. And so I love criteria-based decision-making for that. So here is like a very basic example we use of deciding what's for lunch. And so we used criteria-based decision-making all the time as humans. We walk into the kitchen, for example, to make food, and we say, what are the meals that I have? And what are my criteria? Right now I have 10 minutes to eat. I want something healthy. And, those are my big criteria right now. And so we have this really cool tool that is this you can find online too, and I'll share our website with you at the end. But this is a great place or a great tool to use to decide in a big group on like an action project or something based on particular criteria. So in this example, you can see our meals that we went in considering were spaghetti and meatballs, grilled cheese, vegetable soup, and our criteria were yumminess, healthiness, and inexpensiveness. When we voted, we tally everybody's scores from that first page and we get a total, and it looks like meal 1, which was spaghetti meatballs, wins this time. So this is a cool thing to do with students. It's a really cool thing to do for projects, but it's also a great thing to do if you're just trying to like bring a little bit of democratic decision making into your education space. And sometimes that's like deciding on snacks or where you're going to go for something, but just giving students some input and some voice and choice is really quite cool. Again, this resource is definitely on our website. So it offers young people that opportunity to scaffold, or us the opportunity to scaffold voice and choice and engagement, and offers young people the opportunity to practice group decision making, which is a great civic skill. So with that, if you look at the Padlet again, I just had a question for you all. If you all have any like shared decision-making tools in your programming that you use. So we also use a cool thing called dot storming. If you haven't heard of that, it's really cool. Does anybody else have anything that they use, or have you done some democratic decision-making in your classrooms or programming?
Everybody here's looking at their Padlet.
Good. Well, feel free to throw that in there. I'd love to hear from you. All right. Virtual team as well. So stakeholder engagement is another really, really cool experience for young people to have. It's a key thing I wanted to highlight that Earth Force really advocates for. It's a great skill builder. And when I talk to young people about their experience in Earth Force, so often one of the things that stands out is they're like, these adults listen to me. Like, I went to them and asked for something, or like, even if they didn't get what they initially asked for or wanted to happen, like they had a conversation with adults and adults listened to them, or perhaps they were on like on the news or sat in a city council meeting, something, but like they are just like blown away when they have these interactions with adults and are taken seriously and have some cool, like they gain a lot of skills from that, and they have a lot of positive takeaways from it. So we have a few different ways that we think about engaging stakeholders, lots of mapping. You all are probably somewhat familiar with like stakeholder mapping, power mapping. It's just a way to kind of look at, who do we need to talk to? What kind of influence do they have and such? And so on your right, you'll see a stakeholder web. And on the left, you'll see like a stakeholder grid of like who has influence, who's for change on this issue, who's against change on this issue, etc. This is a cool way to engage young people in thinking about the folks that they're dealing with. And I actually meant to put a different slide in here, but we also, so this is another example that we do on Jamboard sometimes. You can see here, like the issue would be nutrient pollution is affecting the water quality of a local. And so when I have a little bit longer PDs, sometimes we brainstorm the different stakeholders that might be involved in this. And then that would be a great place then for students to start thinking about questions for those folks, to do some peer review on questions and for them to like look at each other's questions, and then to then do some empathy mapping for their stakeholder and say, okay, what is this stakeholder seeing, doing, thinking, feeling? What are they influenced by? What are their, and thinking about their stakeholder before they have an interaction with them. And so these are all just great tools to kind of scaffold that stakeholder engagement, which is really meaningful and powerful in this type of process. So curious to hear from you all. And I see there was a comment in decision making. For stakeholders, do you all, do youth in your programming engage with stakeholders and community members? And if so, how? Just looking back at the decision-making one, someone said Project Citizen. Yeah, we love them. Choices Lessons, 1B program. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. So anybody have anything to share on how they engage stakeholders in their programming?
Nobody from here.
All right. Well, put that in the Padlet if you feel inclined. We do policy panels a lot because we are talking about policy and practice. And so we will have stakeholders or decision makers around, say an educator is focusing on water quality. We would have the folks encourage like the folks who are making decisions around water quality issues in their community to invite them in and sit on a panel for students and the educator to ask some questions and just develop a relationship, which is a great key part if you're going to be asking for change from people. Just getting to know them a little bit first and such is great. So anyway, a policy panel is one of the things that we do a lot. And I know folks have like interviews, and it's been really cool during the virtual world to be able to like zoom in and have more access to folks. So if you have anything to add there, I'd love to hear from you. So strategies and actions. I mentioned this in the beginning, but really we want to try to help students take the lead as we work together on the action that we're doing. And so some of the cool tools that we use, there's Kanban boards, Trello boards, stuff like that. I actually just was implementing one of these with my niece, who is a senior in high school, who was working on a project and she's overwhelmed. It's like, let's make a Kanban board. So just really helping young people to, follow what needs to happen, who's doing it, what's been done already. And I love the idea of having this in like a shared space. So our educators will sometimes put these up on, like a key wall that everybody looks at, and then those tasks move across, and there's some peer accountability there. Like, hey, you haven't done the thing that you're supposed to do. Or can I help you with this and such? And so these boards are a great way to kind of track that and take some of the weight off of educators as we take action together. We also have some committee task sheets and some other ways that we like to encourage young people to be in groups and committees around topics that are interesting to them. One of our long-term educators, actually the one who worked with students to change the indoor air quality in Virginia, she does committees, and at the beginning of her semester that she does this with students, she has them like choose things that are really interesting to them and committees that they're really interested in, like marketing or, whatever the topics are. And And then she has like a vice president, and that person oversees the committees and then reports to her. And she's like, it took so much off of my plate. And they have a lot more accountability and such. And so, it takes some scaffolding and developing some tools, but having like committees and committee tasks and such is a great way to get through like the project piece of environmental action civics. That's a part that, hey, a lot of people get hung up in. And we really want to keep in mind that like youth adult partnerships piece of doing it in partnership and not just telling young people everything, you got to do this, that, and this, and just do it. And we want to give them some power in that too. So take a minute and see if anybody has anything cool to add with the action. I see somebody's a step ahead. So what tools do you use to help youth take action, take the lead in action plans and projects? So someone said, allow students small opportunities first and don't fret about failure. Allow them to improvise, adapt, and overcome. That is brilliant. I love that. And we'll talk about that in a minute in reflecting. Well, I'll just say now, like it doesn't always turn out as you intend. And so the failure piece is just part of life. And especially when we're asking for a change, a lot of times we don't get what we wanted, but we have we look back on the whole process and what did we learn? What would we do different next time? And just celebrate those small accomplishments and those learnings, and don't fret about the failure. I love that. And then also being flexible, improvising, adapting, all of that for sure. And small opportunities, little baby bites. And once students get comfortable with that, then they can take on more and more. Scaffolding is important. So thanks for putting that in there. So reflection, if you remember, step 6 is all about reflection, and it's really so important. I think oftentimes if we make it to the action, we just kind of are like, we did it. But we really should reflect, we should celebrate, and we should share. And so we have some tools that we use, and we have summits with young people where they share their experiences, both their action or their action plan that they're going to do. We have portfolios that we collect and talk, have students like collect their experiences along the way and reflect along the way. Sometimes students want to share this with their community and do a presentation locally or share it in newspapers or whatever, but there's a lot of cool ways to reflect, and it really is so important. It also allows us the opportunity to go back and realize when things don't go well, like what we may have done different. And so it's a really important piece that I think sometimes we run out of time and drop, but it's vital really to that learning process. So I'm curious if anybody wanted to put in what I left out my slide there, what they had from the reflection and sharing piece. I'd love to hear that too. That's in the Padlet. And I think by now, you all have looked at this whole Padlet and you have this, you've skipped ahead. But we have about 10 minutes left. So what I'm hoping to do for this last 10, man, it goes by so quick, doesn't it? Is just here, just pause for a minute to kind of take some questions and see what you're thinking. And then we'll go over some resources for this, right? If you're interested in doing this, I'll share some key resources with you and go over a few things, and then share ways to like get connected and stay connected if this is work that you're interested in learning more about. So at this point, I'll pause, and I've been talking for a long time and trying to get your thoughts. And it's pretty quiet out there. Does anybody have questions, comments?
I have a question. How do you facilitate this program further than where you are? I mean, is it online? Do you do trainings? Do you how do you work with other teachers, or do you just provide the resources, or is there a way for them to be a part of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of all of the above. It's whatever folks are looking for. So if you just wanted to dive into this on your own, you can just go into our resources, which I will skip ahead and say because you've probably already seen it, is on the, there's a resources channel on the Padlet. and you can see earthforceresources.org. So we have tons of free resources there by step. Even you can do resources by step, and it'll say step 1, step 2. You can watch little videos on it. It's all free, and we just would love that if you like this and are using it and you have cool stories to share about what your young people or youth you're working with or educators you're working with are doing. We would love to hear it. But we also do intensive summer trainings for informal educators. We do summer institutes for educators. We do smaller PDs throughout the year. We're often doing something at NAAE, like a mini intro session that's like a 4-hour deeper dive than this. We do ongoing support sessions. We have a Facebook page. So there's lots of different ways to engage. It's really, this is a framework, and you're welcome to adapt it and use it as you want. We're not saying like you have to do anything a particular way. What we really encourage is that you're just getting young people into the environmental issues in their community, working with them in partnership to find what they are excited about and ask for change around those issues, giving them that civic experience. And so there's no one way, and there's lots of ways to be involved. And I have folks who have just been introduced to it and are just like trying some stuff out in their programming kind of on their own. And we kind of check in quarterly or something to folks that have been through like our intensive trainings. And now this is something that they are incorporating fully into their programming, and we meet more regularly. And it's just kind of wherever it makes sense. I love to say, like, how do you want to bring this back to your community, and how does it make sense in your programming and what you do? So does that help, Leslie?
Yeah, that was great. Thanks.
Other questions?
She's asking about retention rate because you said you had in school and out of school programs.
Yeah, so we don't, like, we are one step removed, right? And so we're not doing this directly with young people. We are like spreading the word and getting this out there. And so I would say I don't know much about retention rates, but I know retention rates as far as like educators that we work with, and like both formal and informal is really high. And then most of them have great engagement with their young people when they start doing this. So it's not like, I mean, some folks have done an after school Earth Force program straight up. It's however you want to do it. And because people do it so differently, it's just really hard to gauge that kind of stuff. I will say that we know that students are generally more engaged in this than they might be in something where they just are getting information. Here they're like doing something with the information and doing something with it in a way that they're excited about generally. But it's not like a program specifically that we enroll students into and they go through it with us. We are just sharing our resources out with folks, and they use it in a whole bunch of different ways. Does that answer your question?
Yes, she said thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions? Not from our room here.
Okay. So I don't see any in my virtual chat. If you get a chance, I just love to always hear from folks in the Padlet. There is an exit ticket. I would love just to hear, like, if this resonates with you or something, if you're excited about it. I also want to point out the resources in the Padlet again. There is the earthforceresources.org. Does anybody need me just to share that? Otherwise, I was like not able to get in the Padlet or anything. And I can share this afterwards too, if you would like, with Leslie. But if you go to earthforceresources.org, there's all of our resources there. So feel free to interact with those as you would like. If you're in the Padlet, there is an educator quick start. It's basically like a shortcut if you're interested in kind of figuring out how this might fit into your programming and exploring that more deeply. There is a link to that in our drive that you're welcome to use. Check it out. If you want to leave a comment or a like or something, if you think it's cool or you might use it, it's basically, we have an expanded educator guide that we offer. And this is just kind of like a snapshot of it to help get folks like starting with this. We also, if you scroll all the way down, we have the Chipotle Sustainability Challenge. All of this is on our website too. If you are not on the Padlet or anything and you're off looking on Craigslist or something right now, and later you want to go and look at earthforce.org, which is also up. Sorry, there it is. Earthforce, this one. Whatever. From there, you can get to our resources and such. And also there is the Chipotle Sustainability Challenge. That is, so I mentioned we have these challenges all over, and there are none right now in Indiana, except for this one, which is nationwide. So if you're interested in using, like trying EarthForce and just kind of playing with these ideas in a supported way, and you are interested in using the lens of food systems, this is really cool. So the Chipotle Sustainability Challenge is, we partnered with Chipotle recently, and basically it's all about using the EarthForce process to make your local food system more sustainable. And so we're working with young people 8 to 18, and the idea is that they are working with adults in their community, whether that's parents or partners or educators, and they are learning about their local food system and then proposing change to their local food system. And we are able to provide money for their action plans, as well as they can be eligible to win $500 to $1,000 in prize money, and the top 30 will be eligible for the prize money, and then they will also get like national recognition. So it's a really cool opportunity, and it's a way that if you're interested in kind of trying this EarthForce thing out and trying environmental action civics out through a food systems lens, then yeah, give it a try. All of this is on our website. And also on the Padlet, you'll see my contact information. It's also on our website. But if you are just like so confused but interested and want to dig into this a little deeper, or if you are if you're interested at all or you have questions past today, just go ahead and reach out to me. It's McConkey at earthforce.org, and this is on the Padlet. And you can. I do see a question about fundraising. If you want to send me an email, we have a lot of like cool research we share and white papers that help folks with kind of talking about civic action and fundraising. We have an upcoming fundraising for civic action forum next spring. And then we also will sometimes like write grants with partners or offer our materials as a grant match. Or come in as a partner to do some professional development with educators. So there's a lot of different ways that we could think about that, and I'd be happy to talk more. So if you want to throw me an email specifically about what you're asking for, I see that you're in here, so you have my contact information. And that's it, and we're a minute short, so yay. If you all have other questions or comments and want to put them in there, great. If you want to reach out, fantastic. I know this was the start of your conference. I hope you all have a most wonderful time. Go learn and connect and be together. Enjoy the in-person. It's so cool that you can be there. I wish I could be there with you, and do just enjoy. Reach out if there's anything I can do to support you in environmental action civics, and take care.
Thanks, Alyssa. Really appreciate it. And if there are any links that you think would be helpful, I can certainly send them to me, and I can certainly put them up on the website as a resource on our website as well. So
Great.
We really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Leslie.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks all. Bye-bye. Have a good one. Thanks to my virtual crew too. See you later.
Bye-bye.